Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 128. As I frantically check my notes to remember what episode number it is. 128. Uh, I am, as always, one of your hosts, emallson, and joining me, we have my co host, Anomoly.
Hello.
And having finally gotten through all of the talent stuff for now, there are more changes. Uh, we're returning to all of the other things that have been going on in the meantime. We've got lots of beta updates, some news about itemization and item levels in the new raid. Some
Yes.
interesting things there. Talking about some of the like double faded effect stuff that we knew was coming last week. Now we have actual experience with it. And just like a
Yeah.
whole bunch of other interesting stuff from the beta.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a little bit of a catch up, I guess, episode to do, right?
Yep.
So I guess before we jump into all that, what is I guess how did raids go this week for you? Little recap. But I guess we can also talk about the double affix too. How
Yeah.
that worked out.
Yeah, so this was an interesting raid week for us because our raid leader was like slammed at work and showed up for raid, and like two bosses in was like, okay, I'm going.
Oh
Like
man.
they were not they were wiped, but it was okay. We got through still Legion Generals on Friday with like an hour and a half left in raid. Actually, we kind of crushed it.
Oh nice.
We were talking a little bit pre-show. The double affixes actually made a lot of things easier. The soaks were on good bosses,
Yep.
so it wasn't too bad to have them on. So we just turned on double affixes and left them on pretty much until Sludgefist, and then we turned them
hmm
off on Sludgefist because people were missing the interrupts during the moats, and that just kills people.
Yeah.
Uh, so we turned it off there. Killed Sludgefist, killed Stone Legion Generals, and then went and spent an hour on the Jailer.
Nice. Nice. Did you kill Jailer or did you?
Oh
No, gotcha.
no.
So you basically then just have what Denathrius and Jailer basically
Yep.
tonight. So
Yep. So
shouldn't
yesterday,
be too bad.
I spent a bunch of yesterday going over healing assignments and phase one assignment, like the stupid debuff matrix thing that you got to do for your phase one Denathrius to make sure
Yes.
everybody makes it there and nobody, like, you don't have 15 people with the same stack when the blood price happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was it was fun relearning that. It was also fun. So I guess in my raid we full cleared, not full clear, but we went to Denathrius first. So we skipped on Tuesday to him, got him down pretty early, and then cleared everything but like Zymox and Council on Tuesday. So really good Tuesday for us. Denathrius was interesting. It was fun relearning it. I had forgotten about how the final phase worked at all.
Mm,
So like the fact
mm,
that like you go in the mirror and then like
yeah.
everything's reversed. So
Yep.
like you're no longer being pushed away from the boss, you're being pulled through it. So I 100% killed our ranged, or at least our mages who typically blink the knockback.
Um,
So I got thrown into the range camp, which
I'm
is
gonna
fun.
be doing the non-mirror phase for the first time, actually ever.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so it's gonna be really weird.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it was weird going back there. I will say when we killed it right after the really bad overlap where it's like the pizza slice thing, Ravage, Massacre, the lines,
yeah,
and then
and the
also
range
the
had to drop their
knockback.
soaks. Yeah.
Yeah, like soaks and the knockback where it's like everything happens at once, basically.
Yeah, that's the second pizza slice, right?
Yeah, it's the second pizza slice,
Yeah,
yeah. So we killed it
yeah,
right after that. So it wasn't the DPS race it was when we used to do it, but it was still you still had to learn basically the hardest parts of the final
yeah.
phase. So
It's yeah.
um,
I'm so last time around I was tanking it, of course. This time around I am playing a mage, which is going to make it very different, very
yeah,
different.
yeah. Yeah, we had to actually dig up our old we had a weak order that basically would tell you each thing that was happening and be like, go to this marker, go to this marker, basically. Or if you get a soak, go to this marker. And
Yeah,
so we had to dig that back up and install that because I literally had no idea what I was doing.
yeah,
Um, but no, it was fun. Denathria is still a great boss, even with it on. Yeah, we did double FX, I think every boss for us.
yeah.
Um,
I think if we had had our regular raid leader, uh, we would have left him on because it wasn't
yeah,
like it was not possible for us to do Sludge Fist with the affixes. It was just that I didn't want to deal with.
That is fair. That is fair. But yeah, double fixes. I mean, just in general in terms of like the raid. Oh, and then I guess we cleared jailer, got more mounts. It was fine. Faded jailer still weird in a lot of cases. Just timing wise, I think we talked about this a little bit too on the pre-show. Where
Yeah,
like just timing wise, it's always weird. Like you push at new timers, you push much quicker now when it's not faded. So, um, but yeah, got our mounts. Did all the terrible bosses before that. Um, but yeah, it's double affixes. Thought I would hate it, but it double affixes feels like the way that these faded raids should have felt, which is like we killed Shriekwing before it transitioned this week. Like
yeah.
we
We
double
had
affix two healed
we
and
were so close to that. We had a really bad bait. Like
okay.
not all the range went to the bait spot, and so
Yeah.
he Shriekwing shrieked into the pillar.
Oh no.
Right, and just complete chaos ensues.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
we
You don't know
still
what's what.
almost made. We were at like 7%
Oh,
when
that's awful.
the intermission started, and then had to do the intermission.
That's funny. That's funny.
So, I mean, that's the other lesson here is that yes, the raids like absolutely fall over, but you gotta even on Shriekwing do the mechanics, or you're not gonna get those nice kill times.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, um, so yeah, so I think I mean, other than that, it was a good raid week. We were done early, and hopefully that's the norm now. I think
Yeah,
what is it, Sanctum this week coming up? I think Sanctum's the only one that I need. I think I just need Mythic Sylvanas now for
I
the
think
portals. So
we are at the point like nobody needs Dinar anymore, right? Nobody's needed Dinar for a few
yeah,
weeks. Um, People still need mythic upgrade tokens. Because you need in order to mythic upgrade all your Dinar, you need 60 boss kills.
so many.
So many. So this week, if you had killed every single boss, you would have 72. But most people, a lot of DPS are in for 60 to 70% of boss kills. So they're still looking at like another 2 weeks, like the end of this third rotation. They're
Yeah,
gonna be getting their final Dinar mythic upgraded. Um, which I don't know that we want to spend too much time talking about that, but I do remember before the season started, everybody was talking about how the schedule for Dinar release was like really awkward and like people are going to be, not using their Dinar because they got their loot drop, and I think the opposite has played out, where people have
oh
their
yeah,
Dinar and they're just sitting on it because the normal item is not worth using, and they
yep,
don't have enough mythic upgrade tokens to bump it up to mythic. So they just don't
yeah.
use, they don't spend it.
20 kills is a lot. For 20, yeah. I mean, that's the position I'm at. I've only gotten one item upgraded. I'm still short. Like I had my week timeout.
Right.
And then even then, I'm not in it for every boss anyway. So I like
Yeah.
sit
I
whenever. But
just got my second one on like the fifth boss kill this week.
yeah, yeah. So I'm sitting on 2 dinar with really nothing to buy because like the one thing I bought a weapon. I bought the KT weapon. But then I got, or no, sorry, I bought the Denathrius trinket. I got the KT weapon.
Yeah.
Um, and then the only other thing I need is the trinket from the eye,
Yeah.
which is like that's fairly easy to get.
Yeah.
I just need it to drop. So it's like I don't want to waste a dinar on that.
Yeah.
So
I've spent two of my dinar, one on Antumbra, um,
okay.
and one on a Shadowed Orb of Torment.
Oh, very
And I
nice.
got first sigil to drop naturally. I actually also saw it the same night in the same group. I saw Antumbra drop and rolled an 88 for it, right? Like I rolled a pretty good number for it, and then somebody rolls 93.
Oh, oh, stolen,
Stolen.
stolen. Yeah,
Absolutely. But yeah.
yeah. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say the only thing I was gonna say is I think at this point my dinar is probably gonna be 2 weapons for Windwalker so that I level quicker in Dragonflight. Like it's just not like I'm just over
Get a
wanting.
Zavastrum.
Yeah, let's do some. Actually, yeah, so maybe only one.
Yeah,
Uh,
just get a Zavastrum. People, we have a lot of people asking Peak about what to spend their dinar on, especially if they like play both specs, and it's like just get Zavastrum. Like, yes,
yeah,
the Painsmith weapons are better for Brewmaster, but are
Just
they
easier.
double dinar and 40 mythic upgrade tokens better?
Oh,
If you're already playing
no.
Windwalker a lot, I would say no.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, but yeah, it was a fun week. We'll see how Sanctum goes this week. Sanctum has generally been pretty easy for us.
Yeah.
Like,
I
so
mean,
I mean, I'm not.
Sanctum's the first end boss we killed. We got Sylvanas
Yeah,
down, and Sylvanas was actually not too bad. Um, yeah, I definitely think. Yeah, we still haven't Fate Scribe. I don't think we even. I don't think we have pulled Fate Scribe at all on Mythic.
I think we either killed. I know we've pulled it. I don't know if we killed it that night,
Which,
but it was like the last
oh
boss we went
man,
to.
the portal achievement. Final thing, and then we'll actually move in the
Yeah.
other stuff we're playing. For the portal achievement, you do not just need end boss kills, like the achievement text would imply. You need to
Oh
kill
yeah,
every boss on Fated, on
you
Mythic.
need the meta achievement. Yeah, from the zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's actually really frustrating.
Yeah, maybe we'll target bosses then once they all become unlocked.
Right.
So
It's super frustrating actually, just because of, like, again, Mythic lockout Jenga. It's
yeah,
uh, the intersection of like the vault and individual loot needs and mythic upgrade tokens and portal unlock requirements is like
it's annoying.
very frustrating. I really would like there to be the, like, I want heroic style lockouts for mythic. Really want heroic style lockouts.
Yeah, it would be nice nowadays for sure, for sure. So all right. Well, I guess we can move on from our discussion on faded and raids and move into some, I guess, some stuff that probably came out over the past weeks. Like we mentioned, we've been doing a bunch of these, like just reviews of talent trees from the 3 different specs. So some of this may be things that have came out last week. It might be stuff from a couple weeks ago, but I pulled together some things I thought would be interesting to sort of jump into. So the first thing is Blizzard sort of put out a post on what is going away with both, what's going away with both the pre-patch and then with Dragonflight launch, right? So typically there's like a couple different things that happen. That we will get a pre-patch, and then a number of weeks later, Dragonflight will launch as an expansion. So the pre-patch is pretty standard stuff. So once the pre-patch hits, basically all the seasonal achievements sort of end. So like Season 4 Mythic Plus achievements and rewards will be handed out during pre-patch once that hits, and then the PvP stuff will also be handed out once the pre-patch hits. So
Notable exception here, like, we talk about the raid as like season 4, but it is,
right,
the raid achievements are actually exempted from this.
exactly. Yes, you have up until Dragonflight launch, jeez, to basically finish off the raid style achievements, and also the mounts will continue to drop right up until launch. So you'll still get your 2 Sylvanas mounts and your 2 Jailer mounts really up until Dragonflight launches. So gives it a couple extra weeks. I mean, we haven't really talked much
Yeah.
about the speculation in terms of like when pre-patch hits and when launch will hit, but um, you trust the leaks that came out a couple weeks ago that had all of the various Activision Blizzard like launch stuff like Hearthstone and Wrath and even some of the Modern Warfare stuff. Everything has held true, and WoW is the last thing remaining to announce their launch dates on that stuff. So,
Yeah.
and at that point, November 28th was the Dragonflight launch date, the week after Thanksgiving. They were US Thanksgiving. They were talking about. So,
Yeah.
in any event, have a couple more weeks to finish off your raid stuff, and then pre-patch is really just ending stuff. So,
Right.
but yeah, it was nice for at least Blizzard to get ahead of this, and be good about communicating like exactly what is and isn't staying. So it's pretty
It's
clear.
actually really nice
Uh,
because we have people that have never done a, like, gone through the pre-patch into the expansion while a raid's been active, that they're farming for big mounts, and we're like, are you sure that the mounts are still going to be there?
yeah,
Like, it's how it
yeah,
was in BFA and in Legion. So like we're pretty sure having confirmation is nice.
yeah. And it's to be fair, it's actually worked like that. I know it worked like that in WoD. I'm trying to remember if I remember raid mounts before WoD, but yeah, it's always been like that for the end of expansion. But it's nice that they always confirm it because they always do some. There's always like a weird thing when we go into this crossover world. So
It's so strange too to me. Like some of the stuff that they're taking away in pre-patch, I understand. A lot of the rating based stuff goes away.
mhm.
That's the things like the Mythic Plus rating based achievements are going away. PvP
Yep.
rating achievements going away. And there's a result, everything related to those goes away as well.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a little bit surprised that the dungeon portals go away because those aren't tied to rating.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it's because with pre-patch, they've done this in the past too. With pre-patch, you get talents, like the talent changes and the class changes all come
Right.
in. So they're not going to rebalance getting those
Right,
20s done.
but the mythic mounts, for example, portals
Yeah.
are still going to be available. Presumably the portals. They didn't actually confirm either way here.
Yeah. You're true about the portals. But yeah, I mean, I'm wondering like the way that I sort of view it is it like Mythic Plus as a season ends. So like
Yeah.
anything related to that Mythic Plus piece will also end. And like rating has never been like this is the first time they've ever talked about a season with respect to rating
Rating.
content.
Yeah.
So like in my mind, like rating has always just been that thing that happens, final patch to launch is sort of the window you can do this stuff in. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably just Blizzard's stance too. And then the more seasonal based stuff like Mythic Plus, like PvP, has an end date, and there's like
Yeah.
a gap time between that and like the next season starting, or in this case, Dragonflight starting. So
Yeah.
it is a little odd, but it sort of does somewhat fall in line with their previous. Every season has that sort of gap in between, and
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I mean, it
yeah,
is 100% in line. It's just kind of the difference between the two is very odd to me.
yeah, yeah.
Like I
I
understand all the
agree.
rating stuff going away, especially like, there's the end of season Mythic Plus achievement for rating. It is like
Yeah,
the Gladiator achievement. Um there's, the portals are not like that. The portals are just like you clear it on a 20 and you get no real prestige to it. Not like the
yeah,
very prestigious high end titles.
yeah. No, I get that. I can see. Yeah, it's weird that they are taking it away, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It may also
Actually,
be a
I'm on your side. Yeah,
it may
I
actually
agree.
be
It's
for
stupid.
technical reasons, because of the dungeons being added to the Mythic Plus pool, but only if you can get a key for them. I wonder if something weird is going to happen with keystones in pre-patch. Surely they're not going to, like, you could do
Maybe.
Mythic Plus in Shadowlands pre-patch.
That was pre-COVID. I don't remember anything pre-COVID.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough.
yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm almost. Yeah, I mean, at that point in the season, I'm not doing any Mythic Plus anyway, so I have zero clue
Yeah,
if it was still around back then. But yeah, so I mean, Blizzard, they posted out or they posted, out to the world what is and isn't staying. But yeah, it's basically Mythic Plus and PvP stuff going away. The rating stuff is going to end with pre-patch, and then all your rating achievements and rating mounts will stay until launch. So,
yeah,
couple extra weeks, yeah. Cool. And then moving on, just to another real quick, I guess newsy thing. That doesn't have to deal with beta, which we'll jump into, is Blizzard put out a sort of YouTube video on building Wrathgate. So this was sort of all around the launch of Wrath of Lich King Classic. It launches next Tuesday, the 26th, or Monday, Tuesday. It's a global
yep,
launch, so depending. And they put out a short little video on how they built the Wrathgate cinematic, which for if you're a newer player, like this was one of the first times Blizzard ever did really an in-game like cinematic for the game, I guess you could say.
right,
Like now they're pretty common. Like you do a random quest in a zone and you might get a cinematic or a cutscene. And
yeah,
Wrathgate was the first time they ever did that for something in game. They always had like maybe a pre-patch cinematic or like a pre-expansion cinematic. This was
yeah,
the first time it was like in the game. And it was huge. It was like a pivotal moment, like just in general in the way the story went. It was like the first time you met the Lich King in the world, and sort of battled him or fought him right in the game. So um, they did a little bit of the behind the scenes with Taryn Gregory, who most people will know is basically the dude who runs all the cinematics at Blizzard now. But Wrathgate was the first one I think they worked on for the in-game stuff. And it was cool how they did it, which was like nowadays I think a lot of like the NPCs, movement, animations all like simulated, but back then it was literally like people playing the
yeah.
characters. like running around and everything like that. But it's a
They were
cool video
literally
just to see
like
how they made it.
actors. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, like, I think he says he has, like, a voice line in the cinematic too because they didn't have voice actors, so it's just, like, workers, like, people who worked at Blizzard were, like, the people, voice acting it, so, cool little nostalgia jersey or journey, if you care about that type of stuff, but, yeah, for me, I mean, Wrath was one of the cooler expansions, so, I'm excited for it, and this gives you a little bit behind the scenes on Wrathgate, which is, like that
I
whole
s-
quest line's super cool,
yeah.
so.
I still haven't logged into Classic since the Wrath pre-patch hit.
Oh, I've been in there all week. I'm back in AV. Not AFKing though. I am playing my character. I'm getting PvP kills. I am mid. I literally so this is how I do it now. Is I literally I sort of do the whole AV thing like you run to the end, and then I check my damage. And if my damage is at the lower third of the scoreboard, I literally kill myself and run back and just try to attack the alliance that are attacking our base because I'm like I'm not getting AFK. Like no, 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 Blizzard. Like, I will be on the damage meters. I will be dying. Like, yeah. So, but yeah, I'm back in there. I only need another 15,000 ish. Actually, why am I guessing? I have my spreadsheet. I only need another 14,000 honor for full honor gear. Brutal. So, but
That
yeah,
is
I'm
that
back in
is
there. It's fun.
endlessly entertaining to me. Uh,
So bad.
yeah, season 4 is actually like a huge time sink for people. Like if you're in like an officer spot doing raid lead shit, doing
Oh yeah.
bumps and assignments like for 10, 11 new bosses every single week. Like, yeah, they're not new, but it's been 2 weeks since we did it,
Oh yeah.
or 3 weeks since we did
Yeah.
it. It's
I
lot.
get really lucky. I get really lucky in that we only have so I just do healer cooldowns and we only
Yeah,
have
I,
like
I've been
four
told.
main healers. Oh,
I've been told repeatedly that we don't need healer cooldown this season.
oh, really? No, I still do them.
Yeah,
And like they're not like as strict. It's like okay for like lords, it's like these two healers use all your cooldowns on the first swarm. Other two healers use all your cooldowns on the second swarm. So it's like
yeah,
really light. But like no, luckily we have like the same four main healers with like our fifth and sixth swing healers are easily like their cooldowns easily just can translate to somebody else's. So
yeah.
um yeah, but yeah, I would never. Yeah, no. I need to know when people are using their stuff because then we get like I get pissed when like I'm like, okay, this person chooses their cooldown now, and they're like, oh, I used it like 30 seconds ago. I'm like, why? Now we die. Now we die. Thank you. Or like I have to scramble and call somebody else's. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no.
Um,
At the end of the season, I want to do a season retrospective. I want to do an expansion
okay.
retrospective at some point as well. But end of the season, I think this season warrants one.
Yeah. I would agree. I will pencil that in. I'll put that in the notes. Future topics.
But yeah,
Um cool.
moving.
And I think that's everything. Sorry. You segue. Sorry, I
Oh,
stole your segue.
I segue. Man, I thought I had missed the boat on that one.
Oh, and then we get to talk
All
about
right.
oh.
So moving on to beta stuff. Um, I had not seen this change. So if you go on the docks now, anywhere that there's a boat or a zeppelin, you get a timer.
Yep. It's actually really cool. So like there's an NPC that has a like timer bar, or I guess you can ask the NPC too, but there's like a almost like a timer bar. It looks like a cast bar underneath the nameplate. That tells you how long until the ships come. I think it's only right now for the Alliance ships in Stormwind Harbor. Um, so like it basically tells you how long before the boat comes that takes you to Dragon Isles and back.
Yeah,
Um, so it's only for that one. But one of the game designers I think made a comment that like eventually it'll be for um like the airships and other boats too that sort of you traverse around the area. So cool little change. Like I don't know, it's like weird that like this type of stuff I think is almost cooler than like I don't know, to me, like the profession changes. It's like something that I generally will probably never use because I will port between wherever I need to go
yeah,
and I'll be lazy about it. But like in terms of like the one time I'm like, okay, how long do I have to get the boat here? Can I like walk away from my computer for like 30 seconds
yeah.
and not miss it?
That's
It's like, yeah, it's cool.
so for those that maybe weren't aware, you can talk to the people at the docks and they will tell you like a rough, very vague estimate on like what's going on. they'll tell you, oh, the boat just left. You just missed it,
Yeah.
or that the boat just left the other end and it's on the way here and it'll be here soon. But it's very vague because that could be like it just left. It'll be here in a minute. It could be it just left. And you've got 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So a little bit clearer, a little bit. This is one of those things where this is a little bit more video gamey, which is a weird thing to say about World of Warcraft, but
Yeah.
it is. It is like different from like going and walking up to an NPC, talking to it, and talking to it like it's got a canned response, right?
Yeah.
Um, so interesting.
It it does to that point, it does ruin a little bit of the world immersion because it was like the responses were nice, like, "Oh, it just left, so it'll be here soon," right?
Right.
Or, you know, it just left the other side. But now it's like a very specific, like, "You have 4 minutes and 32 seconds before the boat gets here," and you're like, "Okay, cool, like, I can figure this out, or I can do something real quick." So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely more video gamey in that regard.
We got a question from chat that we'll get to later, but this is
Yeah,
going to tie into that. We actually had an extended conversation in guild chat on a very similar question, um, like last
gotcha.
week. So
Nice. Um So cool. So that's sort of just a fun little note thing. Added some timers to the boats in Dragonflight, which will be fun. The other thing that sort of was a sort of a not really announced, but you can see this in the dungeon journal. They did release the dungeon journal for the raid, so it's slowly populating that. But what was noticed is that item levels between bosses now increase. Not just the last like 2 3 bosses aren't just dropping increased eye level loot. It starts from like the second boss. So
yeah,
in the current way that the current way that it's set up is the first boss of the new raid will drop the minimum item level for that difficulty. So that's like 424 for Mythic. And then the next 3 bosses, so bosses 2, 3, and 4, will drop +3 items at +3 item level from that. The 2 bosses after that will drop +4 item level. And then the final 2 bosses will drop +3 item level. So there's actually like a 10 item level spread now from the first boss to the last boss,
yeah,
with increments in the middle, which is okay. This is my just cut. Like, I hate this.
really,
I hate this, and I hate this. I actually hate the current iteration of it, but it's okay because it's small enough that it's not a huge deal. But like,
okay,
I hate this from the point of view of like it will feel bad if I don't have a armor set, like an armor piece, or even a weapon, right? Like this generally happens with monks, I think, in other classes, like glaives or like maybe feral druids, right? Where
right,
they're like the best item I can get might be from the second boss, which
yeah,
means I am inherently always going to be 8 item level below someone who gets it from like even
right.
another healer that gets a, like something from the last
On
boss.
the other hand, the the that's you're way less likely to have it be a full 8 or 7 compared to right now, where like right now, only in Sepulcher, the jailer and or not Anduin, the jailer, Lords of Dread and Ragavan drop increased eye level, but if your weapon drops off of a boss before that, sucks to be you. It's 7 eye levels below. With this, you've got half of the raid that is at the like +7 to +10 eye levels over like
Mhm.
the intro boss. Um, so odds of you ending up with like an item in that bracket is way better than it is in Sepulcher.
That's true. That's true. I just don't like the fact that you're item locked. It would be more interesting to me is if you killed bosses that gave you an upgrade item that let you incrementally upgrade those items. Very similar to the way like the dinar
Man,
and the
imagine if
upgrade
we had
trinkets work
Valor.
now. Imagine if they just took MOP and just transitioned it to Dragonflight. Because like to me, like MOP, like that's the reason I will always say that like Valor and the idea of like upgrading a piece of gear by like farming Valor, it doesn't be Valor, but another type of currency, right? Is just inherently better way of like nerfing or lowering difficulty without
Yeah,
having you like this sort of scaling item level thing. Cause it just now it's literally like it just it's just so annoying because like now the idea is like, well, do you always want the higher item level piece, or is there going to be now a breakpoint in like, well, if you get two leather boots, one that drop it like from the base item level, one that drop it +8, like which one's better,
I mean, it's the
right?
one that's +8 for virtually everyone, right?
Well, it depends on the stats, right? If it's a mastery heavy piece in the current idea with like if it's like mastery, maybe like haste, maybe you want the haste verse piece or the crit verse piece from like the
Right.
lower item level as a Mistweaver because like
Yeah.
the stat distribution. But yeah, the int then you care about. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just sort of I mean, weapons I think are the big one, and even trinkets I think to a lesser extent are just a it just feels like it feels bad for no reason. Um to like watch other people like not watch other people, but to have your best item just generally be I guess weaker is the wrong word, but like to watch people just get bigger numbers than you, which
Yeah.
is like I think the issue.
So
'Cause it's
I'm gonna say I kind of disagree.
okay, that's fair.
Um, and I think it's like to some degree you're right because if you just take like just basic ass items that just have stats on them, right?
Mm,
Then yeah, it does feel worse. And for another thing, this could never, ever, ever work with personal loot. Like if personal loot is your only option, this is just broken by design because like you're gonna be able to trade almost nothing.
yeah.
Like clearing the
Oh, I
early
didn't even think
parts of
about
the
that,
raid
yeah.
doesn't let you trade anything from the later parts of the
It yeah, you need 2 items at like the one at the higher level, one at the lower level for that to even be worth it. Because like if you're only bootstrap it up, yeah, that's
yeah.
not
So personal loot does not interact with this very nicely, but the potential for group loot or master loot makes this function.
mhm,
And mythic is like the well, I guess this applies to all difficulties, but um, you can get items that are higher than the you are likely able to get items that are higher than the heroic eye level, the max heroic eye level, from your mythic plus box, and from valor up. So there's that system that you can use to make items untradeable, but then like you're maybe aren't using personal loot. You're in a guild group and master loot. Like every
yeah.
mythic guild right now, pretty much every CE guild effectively does master loot with personal loot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just yeah, it just feels weird and convoluted and I don't know. I mean, I get the nature of why they do this, right? It's like an
I,
it is a way to like easily more easily not easily, but it's a way to like slowly nerf the instance as you push further into it,
it's
right?
also like now later bosses, even the mid tier bosses, are more rewarding. They give better loot than doing the easy intro bosses.
Yeah,
Like Halandris gives the same eye level of loot as Vigilant Guardian, right? Halandris is
I agreed. Yeah.
significantly harder. And Halandris
Yeah.
doesn't even have any unique items that are like worth the extra difficulty. It's got the like earthquake trinket, but that's generally not as good as other trinkets that you can get.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right in that it does keep you engaged and like there's like yeah, there's the power creep as you like work your way through the instance, right? Like there's like nowadays you're right. Like there's not a reason like we will skip Halandris and on a faded week until the end, right? Because there's literally no point in going to do it. Actually, to be fair, once you get the raid skip, like there's no point to do any of the bosses other than the ones just to get to jailer, right? And
yeah,
get that and the like the later boss loot anyway. So yeah, I mean I understand it. I just I just really like item upgrades. I think I just really like the deterministic way of being like, okay,
yeah.
I kill this or I farm
I
up this amount of currency and I get to upgrade, right? You know?
I think it would be like having a way to take the like intro boss ones and make them equal to an end boss one would be nice. Whether it's giving us, um, like it was valor and what's the other currency? Justice. Valor and
Badges,
justice.
yeah.
Whether it's like collecting justice points or valor points or whatever from the raid, to and then having to invest, like, if you have to invest 4 weeks of a valor to fully upgrade your item from the boss, where then like an end boss one is just fully upgraded from the start,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
then I think that's fine. Um, there's still like the end ones are better because you're not
Yeah.
going to need to invest anything into them. But you know,
Yeah, and even to be fair, like they could, I feel like the balancing here, if they want to keep the same idea of like incrementally, you go like the bosses in the mid tier are better than the boss at the start, and the end boss is better than mid tier, right? It's like the currency that this upgrade system uses only drops or starting with those mid tier bosses.
right?
Right, which it won't which at that point you just can't farm out like the easy bosses for a couple weeks and
Yeah,
upgrade to like an end boss item. So I think
yeah,
there's ways around it, but I mean this is what it looks like Blizzard's going with at least right now on beta is that you
yeah,
have this sort of progression of item level through the raid now. So it'll be different. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but to be fair, I'm not a huge fan of just end bosses dropping higher level items.
yeah,
Anyway, so I mean, this sort of just is me wanting to be old and go back to MOP Valor upgrades.
yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Be completely honest with you. Um, but cool. But yeah, they sort of did a. I guess WoW had put a quick little write up, so they have tables for everything. They also show a little bit about the Mythic Plus, um, sort of upgrade tree and what they're speculating that'll be, um, come season one of Dragonflight. So we'll see. It'll be a good experiment, though. I mean,
Yeah,
to be fair, you're right. I think it'll be good to see what Blizzard's changing things up and testing some things. So maybe I find out I love it. I don't know. Although group loot means I get no loot anyway, so the worst decision ever as a healer. Um, so so cool. So I guess moving on to a couple of other things that popped up over the past couple weeks. Blizzard has released a level 70 realm
yep,
for end game testing. So they've both done a couple things. A realm that's just for level 70 pre-mades, and basically where they'll enable all the end game content for people to test directly.
yep.
So this realm went up. I think it was actually this week, or
This
right at the end of
was
this week.
3 days ago, so
Okay,
like
cool.
Thursday, Friday time.
Yeah. So that went live, and they're opening with some PvP solo shuffle thing being up there.
Which
So
is not really something that we are super going to talk about, but rated solo shuffle coming in Dragonflight.
yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if you can go gladiator in that. I guess you would assume, right? There'd be
Yeah,
some sort of ranking for it. Yeah.
yeah,
So, but yeah, so you make your pre-mates. Nothing is actually enabled outside of you just being able to sit, I think, in Stormwind or Ogremar and
yeah.
queue for things. So you can't do world content. You can't go to
The
the Dragon
true
Isles.
Cataclysm experience.
Yeah, exactly. You sort of just sit in the main city and just queue out for things. So, say if you want to test sort of the max level stuff, head over to what is it? Valdraken is I think the actual realm name on beta. If you have beta, which if you don't, about every content creator and their mother has been having beta key giveaways this week.
Yep.
So try and win one of those. They went back to keys again. I think it's been long enough since the Hearthstone debacle that they're uh they're okay with giving beta keys to content creators again. Did you go through that? Were you around for that at all? Do you
I
remember
do
that?
not remember that.
People were like like,
Selling
"Hey,
keys.
subscribe to me and I'll give you a Hearthstone key." And like
Oh
they didn't
yeah.
actually have keys. So
Oh boy.
it was a fun it was the wild wild west of trying to get a Hearthstone beta key back then.
Ooh,
Yeah.
spicy.
People are rude about it. People are rude. Um But yeah, no, it's cool. I actually have tested. I jumped on there the other day. Did not do solo shuffle, but sort of just set up a character. It's actually good because add-ons are enabled on PTR too, so you can sort of actually are they on beta too now?
I
I was
believe
doing. I was
so.
doing. Yeah, I was doing. Yeah, that would have been beta because I was doing some weak aura stuff for.
Yeah.
There is a weak aura version that works.
Yeah.
For beta, which is
I'm gonna
nice to
have
start
to
setting that stuff up.
I have so much stuff to fix up for. I'm going to do most of it in pre-patch, to be completely honest. I'm going to like log in on Tuesday. Perks of weekend rating.
No, that's
Um,
true. You get that
perks
whole
of weekend
weekend to do
rating.
whatever you want.
I'm going to log in on Tuesday of the week, and I'm going to sit in some remote location because Orbos is probably going to be crashing on loop, and I am going to get just all my weak auras and UI stuff sorted.
Nice.
because I will have 3
Nice.
whole days to do it before we actually raid on Friday.
I will have an hour before raid if I'm lucky. Um, to try and fix
You
it.
should
Oh
you should
god.
try the weekend raiding schedule.
Maybe. I actually so I kind of am, but in
Oh,
Wrath, not in
oh,
not in
that's
retail.
just a 4-day schedule with extra steps.
Maybe that's true. That's true. Um, but yeah, no, with pre-mades should be cool. I'm excited for when they start opening up like Mythic Plus or some of the raid stuff. Do some raid testing here. So we are flying through notes here. I just looked at the
It's okay.
time.
We got all this Mistweaver shit to talk about. I have no idea
That's
what's
true,
going on.
actually. I'm so excited. Okay. A couple other hitters before we get to the Mistweaver
Oh,
stuff.
let
So
myself think.
there is a bunch of data mining that went on to sort of data mine out what the season 1 Mythic Plus dungeons are going to be. So a bunch of stuff was updated in the database, like calling things basically challenge versions of dungeons, which are typically I think the internal moniker they use for Mythic Plus
Yep.
dungeon.
Yep.
Um, so Wowhead has sort of built a list of what the dungeons look to be. So we've got the 4 Dragonflight ones. I actually don't know what these dungeons are. I've done a handful of them, but like I don't know their names.
I've done
So it's
of these. I've done Ruby Life Pools and No Good Offensive. No Good
okay.
Offensive is um, it's the dragon riding one.
Oh, the wide open one. I gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That'll be interesting. It'll be routes and that'll be really cool, actually, I
yeah.
think.
That one's gonna be
Um,
wild. I have not. I don't think I might have done Azure Vault. Um,
okay.
but I have definitely not done the Academy.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, so I guess just to read them off, we have Ruby Life Pools, Algathar Academy, No Cud Offensive, and the Azure Vault as the 4 Dragonflight Mythic Plus dungeons. And then coming from other expansions, we have Quarter Stars from Legion as a Mythic Plus, and then Temple of the Jade Serpent from MLP, if the data mining is to be believed.
Yeah,
Because I don't think they've officially announced the dungeon, the
I think they did
non.
say quarter stars. I don't know if they've
Yeah.
said for months, but I mean, quarter stars is
Temple of
great.
the,
That's gonna be nice to have
yeah.
back.
Temple of the Jade Serpent is interesting in that it's very compact as a dungeon. Like it's super, super tiny.
Yeah,
And it's 4 bosses, so like most of it is going to be boss fights, which will be cool.
yeah.
Um,
Except it's got the the lore boss fight, the lore walker boss fight.
oh yeah,
Awful.
that's
That fight is yeah.
yeah. I mean, okay, agreed. I mean, the problem is the other 3 are pretty, like the water boss, right? Pretty good.
I'm gonna
The
be honest.
dragon's really cool.
I never learned what to do with the water boss because it just died.
Okay, so quick, there's like little elementals that come out, and you have to
Right.
kill like 3 big elementals, and
Yeah.
then that destroys the shield, and then you just
Yeah.
kill the shield, kill him, or kill it. I don't know what it is, but you
Yeah.
can't touch the water. The
Yeah.
water's bad, so you like jump around. It's all it does. It's not that
Yeah.
bad.
Okay. So it doesn't have any mechanics.
No, you gotta like dodge water. I mean, yeah, for like you as like a tank or DPS, it doesn't. But healers have to heal you when you're an idiot and stand in
Okay.
bad
Okay.
water.
It's got
So
healer mechanics. Got it.
yeah. But no, it's got the dragon. The third boss is actually really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
I
final
actually really like
boss
that
is
one.
good. That's the Shaw
Yeah,
boss where you go into different phases and you have to kill the thing that's chasing you.
exactly. And you
Yeah.
pop out and you can help your buds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a good boss.
that's all. Yeah. So I mean, Temple's cool. Yeah, and then I guess the other 2 they're telling another one from Legion and one from WAD are what WoW had speculating on the final 2 dungeons for the rotation. So yeah, it'll be I don't know. Seems like a good set of dungeons. I'm excited to get on that 70 realm. Gosh, I don't know when because I'm all in on AV, but my
Well,
spreadsheet has
in
anything to
some
tell me
ways,
about.
you are already on the level 70 realm.
That's true. That is true. I only have another 6.5 hours of AV, and then I'll be done. So closing in,
Why would you do that?
closing.
For
To be fair, it's
leveling
great.
gear of all things.
It'll last me till I'm 75, which basically means I'll get there in
You,
like 6 months
you know
after
what
launch.
else lasts you until level 75? Gear from the Borean Tundra.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. AV's fun though. I don't know. I like it.
Now
Brings me
that
back.
is a lie.
It brings me back. It brings me back.
That is
Um,
probably true. Yeah.
so cool. So now I guess we get into like the real meat and potatoes here. Some new news. We'll say
With
is
that Mistweaver blue post.
We did, which is surprise. So I think before we get into the post itself, I do wanted to mention something just around these is that it has honestly been awesome. Like all of the feedback posts. I know that like people are
Yeah.
gonna be like, well, my class doesn't get any, but in general, or like that hunters get one every week.
Yeah.
Which I think is the best meme ever. Because I think people like hunters don't like their tree anyway, which is great that they get a post every
The
week.
hunter tree, the hunters in my guild are like really happy with it now. They were
Gotcha.
complaining about it earlier on, but I think it's been like 57 blue posts later.
They got it.
They got it.
Nailed it. But no, so I mean, I think just in general, Blizzard posting these sort of posting these sort of posts, but basically giving some behind the scenes, like, hey, we're about to make these changes. Here's some reasoning around why we're making the changes. Super cool.
Yep.
They should continue to, even if I don't agree with what they're saying. It's cool that they at
Like
least
the
explain
priest
themselves.
one.
Yeah, like the priest one, I think is a key one where they're not happy, but Blizzard's explaining things, so it's like they'll
Yeah.
get there. There's a discourse,
Now,
right?
now the community can disagree with Blizzard on principles, not just on specifics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
The
Fun.
Mistweaver one is significantly better than the Priest one in terms of blue post
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah, no, and I think still really happy with the tree. So yeah, so Blizzard put out about a blue post just about sort of a couple of key areas, right? So first up was they talked a little bit about where the 2-point nodes are being positioned in the Mistweaver tree. So they highlighted a couple of them, like Resplendent Mist, Overflowing Mist, Peaceful Mending, and things like that, which is where they are positioned in the tree and potentially what they're blocking off your access to. Um, so in all of those, right? So based on this, they did make a couple of probably really good changes, we'll say, in positioning, which we'll get to. But they have moved things around based on this to limit the amount of times a 2-point node is gating or blocking a specific set or a specific node below it. Um, so they're trying to like not trying to get position 2-point nodes in a way where you want to grab them if you think they're impactful, but not feel like you have to grab them because the things after it are impactful. Um, so cool little change, something they've noted. It did mean that overflowing mist went back to sort of its original position in the tree, which I'm happy about. Or sorry, no, it stayed in its position. They moved peaceful mending to a different position, which is I think what I'm happy about the most here with this change. Um, so yeah, so overflowing mist stays similarly. It's like in the tier 2 area, right around like the font of life invoke nodes. Um, they moved peaceful mending over to bone dust brew, and then they moved resplendent mist into peaceful mending's old position, which was overflowing mist's old position. Some shifting there. So good shifting, I think. They also talked a little bit about Jade Bond, which the interesting thing about Jade Bond is it's on a choice node with I think it's called Gift. Is it Gift of Celestials? It's whatever the 1 minute Celestial talent is. So
Yeah,
you basically get a choice between having Jade Bond or having 1 minute Celestial. And they talked a little bit about the fact that they want Jade Bond to basically be like the power increase choice node, while Gift is the like get this more often choice node. So they're starting to lean a little bit more into like making Jade Bond's value in its Gust of Mist soothing breath bonus. Um, and less about it like reducing cooldown, which is really what Gift of the Celestial does so well.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know if they actually we can get a build after this. So like we'll see that in this week's build exactly what this means. But I guess the idea would be is Jade Bond becomes sort of your like, I want a 3 minute cooldown that's more powerful versus I want like a current power ability just every minute. Which
yeah,
I'll be completely honest with you, you probably want the every minute one. Regardless.
yeah. Probably.
But we'll see what the changes actually make. So they talked a little bit about Unison and where it is positioned.
So remind me what
Um,
this talent even did.
it's so awful. So it basically made it so your soothing mist hit a second target and healed them
Oh,
for I think it was like 50% of the soothing mist amount, but just the
ew.
soothing mist healing. So
Yeah, that's
like
bad. I don't
you're
even play
never
Mistweaver, and I can tell that's bad.
you don't channel soothing mist like this is a part of I think a larger conversation or for at least for me around soothing mist and the fact that I don't think the current ability works in the current game.
Yeah,
Like I think it worked when the game like when in MOP and WAD, but I don't think it's worked since all the Legion changes Mistweaver went through.
yeah,
So it's sort of just they have talents that sit around it, and yeah, I mean they moved it to a choice node with restorative proliferation, um, which I honestly am drawing a blank about what that one did. Um,
We
but in
can
any
find
event,
out what that one did.
you're yeah. Actually, let me pull up the talent tree. I'm so I'm so bad with the names of stuff until I start writing 30 guides on what to use.
Wowhead really needs to make it easier to get to the talent trees.
Yeah. What's that was oh, okay. Restorative proliferation was the old Odin's Wraps legendary, which basically spread the enveloping mist uh, healing bonus to targets to various targets around whoever you cast enveloping mists on.
Okay.
Um, which is like again, like just say I don't know why you would take Unison even with that choice node. Number one, I don't know why you take restorative proliferation unless you need to, right? It is a really good bonus. It's like the healing increase just spreads, but not the actual healing of the hot. But still, it's nice. Um, but yeah, soothing mist talents in general just need to die off, right? And I think
I
the
do
one that people, sorry,
I do think it is really funny. Like Mistweaver has like since Legion has had like two core spells, right? That have been what most things, most talents, most traits, most conduits, that kind of stuff have been based around. Essence Font and Soothing Mist, and both of those are like on the actual player shit list.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the soothing mist one, like it. The biggest problem with soothing mist is that when they went through the Legion rework, they tacked it on at the end. Like that in that expansion, and soothing mist was just a passive heal that triggered after you casted a heal on a target. So it
Oh,
like
okay.
passively just heal your target after you vivified them.
Yeah.
Then they changed it to an active in BFA, but you never hit it anyway, and you still don't hit it. So it's just, I mean, I would say Soothing Mist could probably die off if, like, the one change that they could make to honestly kill the spell is if the buff from Clouded Focus didn't apply to the Vivify Cleave. And if it just applied, so Clouded Focus is one where, like, if you cast Vivify or Enveloping Mist on a target while you're Soothing Misting them, it stacks a buff, and that buff reduces mana cost and increases healing, right? It stacks with a 3. And so they kill the cleave part of that, cleave the healing increase to vivify cleaves, then there's no reason to ever cast Soothing Mist because that's
Right.
really the only way you'll hit it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's Soothing Mist dead. Anything to do about Soothing Mist dead in the water. This movement of Unison to some choice node, I mean, looking at the way that they have the new tree actually sucks anyway. It just means now you're going to get to take restorative proliferation. Uh, because you need to take it now to get to secret infusion and like invokers or rising mist, right? So like now you get the nice enveloping spread healing bonus for free,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, so I'm again not a huge fan of soothing mist, not a huge fan of unison just in general. I think, I mean, if they were gonna make this sort of a gameplay option, uh, number one, like Soothing Mist is just generally too slow. If they keep it in its current iteration, they need Unison to replicate any healing you do into your Soothing Mist target on whatever that second target Unison is healing. Because then you at least get
You have
two
a reason
target
to do it.
heal
Yeah.
cleave, yeah. But I mean, it's still
Then you
two
get to heal
targets.
both tanks at once and be like a
Yeah.
budget beacon of light.
Oh God, dude. Well, a random budget beacon, like you actually don't get to pick who Unison heals, so like
But
Unison
it's
could
like the
heal
closest target, right?
No, I think
Oh.
it's a random injured target
Oh.
in ranged, I believe is
Oh
the way it
dear.
works.
That's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, it's not good. But because of this change, because they've now moved restorative proliferation off of, it used to be on a choice node with Tea of Plenty. They've now changed Tea of Plenty. And basically they've changed it in a way that sort of is cool and sort of still makes it Tea of Plenty. So not that great. So Tea of Plenty, if people weren't aware, basically every time you used Thunder Focus Tea, you got a random extra charge of Thunder Focus Tea for a random spell. So you could hit Thunder Focus Tea and you might get an Essence Font proc, which meant your next Essence Font you casted would have been TFT buff just randomly. So it would have been like Essence Font, Rising Sun Kick, Renewing Mist, Vivify, or Enveloping Mist were sort of your options. And they basically split this in two. So now it's still a choice. It's still a choice now, but you have Tea of Plenty and Tea of Serenity, I guess is the idea. And the only difference between the two is what spells you can get a random buff of. So one is going to be Renewing Mist, Rising Sun, and Essence Font, much more like I don't want to say fist weaving focused, but like much more like I guess fist weaving focus for lack of a better word for it.
So
And that
is this one like if you take this one, you just
yeah.
take it, and if you roll Essence Font, do you ignore it?
No, you still cast Essence Font because if you're like I think if you're taking Tia Plenty, you're taking Font of Life anyway.
Okay,
And Font of Life, every time Essence Font heals with a bolt, has a chance to reduce the cooldown on Thunder Focus Tea.
right.
So technically, you a hasted Essence Font is still good to hit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and you can probably find a way to hit it anyway. And like you're like, while most people are hate on Essence Font, I think if you're not taking Bayline Stomp, you're still gonna utilize it somewhat, right?
yeah.
Um, but
Uh,
yeah,
and then the other
sorry.
one. Sorry, you were getting into what the other choice note is.
Yeah, so then Tea of Serenity, which I think is the name for the other one, is Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, and Vivify. So it's all like your casted, well, your single target casting spells versus Rising Sun, King, and Essence Font, which are much more going to be
AoE.
melee slash AoE focused. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I mean it's interesting. It basically like Tea of Plenty as a buff is nice, but it's so random that you can just get screwed. Like you can get five enveloping mist procs in a row, which is like useless.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. Um,
This does make
but now
it
so you could focus
a
a
little
little bit.
bit less likely that you just like if there's this kind of has the roll the bones thing, right? Where roll the bones
Yep.
has typically like a couple of good options, a really bad option, and a couple of medium options.
Yeah.
And so this is the number of cells you can get is smaller, and really it's going to be more of like medium option, great option for each of these that you can talent into. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean it's not a bad thing. I think the it does suffer from its placement in the tree. So it is a capstone and it sits behind Resplendent Mist, which is in a new position. Resplendent Mist is like the 2 point increase your mastery or a 30% chance to get a proc of 100% more mastery. So it's weird, I'll say. Um and like the other way to get at this is from Feline Stomp, which again, I don't know how much you utilize the procs from that. So it's just yeah,
yeah,
it's it's a weird one to where it puts. And I mean, again, the other thing is it also competes with Invoker's Delight, Rising Mist. So it's like again competing against two other capstone that are just invariably more powerful
yeah,
than what this is. So but no, I mean it's a good change. I think they've identified like, hey, if you like the Tea of Plenty playstyle, you can now and you didn't like the fact that it was just a random grab bag of like five different buffs, you now can target and it's,
yeah,
3 and 3 basically. Um so yeah, so I mean, those were sort of the notes. So they did put a picture of sort of the tree out there. And one thing I think I touched didn't really touch greatly on is the fact that when they moved restore or when they moved Soothing Mist talent, what's it called? Peaceful Mending, to where Resplendent Mist was. They also moved Bone Dust Brew. So in the right
okay,
hand corner of the tree, they basically move Bone Dust Brew up a level. And then now that Resplendent Mist is out of the way, you now only need to invest into the upgrades to Bone Dust Brew. It's only one, it's directly connected.
right,
To go Bone Dust Brew, and your next point is that choice node between like attenuation and whatever the other thing is.
yeah,
Attenuation and Bountiful Brew.
okay,
Um, so makes taking Bone Dust Brew and its corresponding upgrades slightly easier. Um, it does though in all this shuffling make it weirder to get to Rising Mist and Invoker's Delight because they've sort of moved things into this center stack now
right.
of talents.
So is this
So we'll see.
something where you're gonna like take Bone Dust Brew, ignore the upgrade, and go down to Rising Mist, and that's maybe like the best path to get to Rising Mist?
No, because
Okay.
you go through Peaceful Mending,
Oh,
which is
okay.
like a Soothing Mist talent.
Yeah.
So, and you, if you didn't go through the new choice node, that's Restorative Proliferation and what's the other one? Um, it's the oh sorry, not that. It's between Jade Bond and the Gift of Celestials. If you don't go through that node, your other way is through Focus Thunder and
Oh,
the other upgrade to Focus Thunder. What's that
yeah.
choice node? Upwelling. So you either go through that way to get to Rising Mist now.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, So yeah, but I think it makes it easier to take bonus brew and its upgrade if you want to take it. I've seen some chatter, just in, like Discord. Some people have been testing like the Feline Stomp plus bonus brew, like basically ignoring Rising Mist and ID Invoker's Delight. Which maybe that's the way you see some play there. Um, but we'll have to see once this is not live on beta or on PTR. So
Right.
all we have is sort of a screenshot to go on
Right.
with this one.
Which
So
also means the talent calculator on Wowhead is not updated for this, which is why we are not using that for this.
yeah, exactly to show you guys. But no, all in all, I mean, to be fair, cool changes. The Tia Plenty change, while I'm never going to take it, I don't think is still cool that they've identified, hey, it does suck to have a 1 in 5 chance of getting something good. There's a way to drop it to a 1 in 3, which still offers that sort of RNG gameplay, but it's more targeted RNG, which I think is cool. And the fact that they noticed it, I mean, Jade Bond having any sort of CDRs competing on a CDR front is just not going to work with a standard just 1 minute celestial available to you. So, um, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know if I have a point of like, hey, am I happy or not happy about the changes?
Yeah.
Um, I think still having soothing mist talents on the tree is makes me unhappy, but I realize they're not going to remove that spell for this expansion. So um it is what it is in terms of the changes. So um yeah, it'll be we'll see. I guess we'll see on Tuesday or Wednesday whenever this gets pushed how it plays, but it should be interesting. Should be cool. So
Yeah. So we also, related to those Mistweaver talent changes, we have general class tree updates for Monk. Um,
yeah.
Nothing like there's things that are moved around, but I would not say these are like there's no earth shattering changes here. Um, the main thing is I think one of the changes has been to make it easier to access fortifying brew from the brewmaster end of the tree. You no longer have to invest 2 points in paralysis or to do that. You can instead go through disable, which previously we have not had access to. Um,
Mhm.
all this stuff.
Oh, yeah, because this
And
did
again,
make it to PTR. Yeah, the
yeah.
class changes did. Yeah.
And you can skip the upgrade to paralysis if you would like. You might want to take this Ferocity Zuen just for the increased damage dealt, um, and get access to your major cooldown and your kick, and not have to go over into this left end of the tree for things that you don't want as a brewmaster. Um, there are some other changes. There was a Crackling Jade Lightning talent. Now it's an Expel Harm talent.
Yes. Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
Expel Harm is actually now also baseline. I don't think
Hmm.
that change got correctly implemented on beta. Uh,
I would agree. Yes.
yeah, but there are a number of things here. So we've got this Vigorous Expulsion on the third row. Expel Harm's healing is increased by 5% and critical strike chance increased by 15%. And then later on in the tree, we actually have two more. One in the previous location of Expel Harm, Strength of Spirit. This was in the Brewmaster tree. Expel Harm's healing is increased by up to 200% based on your missing health. It is also still in the Brewmaster tree, which I think is just the Brewmaster tree not having yet been updated. We've gotten
Yeah.
so many questions about this in Peak this week. Kind of crazy. But no, you're not going to be taking this twice. It is not going to stack with itself. You're going to get this talent once. Something else is going to go over here in the Brewmaster tree. And
Yeah.
then Profound Rebuttal, Expel Harm's critical healing is by 50%, which, like, this is really weird to me. The, like, two Expel Harm talents that I guess there's the critical strike chance increase combined with the critical strike healing increase. Yes? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a
It's
really odd talent.
and also where it's. I mean, I know they want to create this sort of friction, but like expel harm. I don't have expel harm on my bars as a Mistweaver. Like
Yeah.
I never. It, it's only a self heal, and then I can also heal somebody if I'm soothing misting them. And we just talked about the fact that soothing mist is
Yeah.
generally not
A
something we
trap.
do in a raid. So yeah, I mean it's weird. It also like you guys miss out, I feel like, on the increased healing and the increased critical strike one, the vigorous
Well,
expulsion,
that is
just because you have to
fine.
take but you have to take
Uh,
soothing mist to get to it, right?
yeah, that's fine because uh, these are just upgrades to the base heal, not to the amount of healing that you get from Gift of the Ox. And for Brewmaster, Gift of the Ox is a lion's share of what Expel Harm does.
Gotcha. Okay.
So like,
So less concern for you guys. Yeah.
yeah, you might hit Expel Harm and get full healed, but only have 5% of the healing come from Expel Harm itself, and the other 95% come from Gift of the Ox orbs. And
Uh-huh.
that's so we're not super concerned about missing out on these Expel Harm talent. Um, Strength of Spirit had a place in the Brewmaster tree as like a low damage environment kind of talent. Like if you're tanking normal or you're out in the world and you're not taking very much damage, then Strength of Spirit becomes more compelling because you just aren't getting gifted the Ox Orbs. Just
Right.
because they're based on the amount of damage you take. Taking less damage, you get less of them. So Strength of Spirit being still on the Brewmaster side, but now in the class tree, it's still accessible to us for that purpose. I am curious what is going to go in the Brewmaster tree now in its place. So currently, there's a choice node between Strength of Spirit, which is the Expel Harm's healing is increased by up to 2% based on your missing health,
Uh-huh.
and Gaiplin's Imperial Brew, which is a legendary from Legion. Purifying Brew instantly heals you for 25% of the purified stagger damage. Guy Plans is way better in a like Mythic Plus or Mythic Raid setting because you're just taking way more damage and you're purifying way more.
Hmm.
I don't know what they're gonna put there. And maybe it becomes not a choice node anymore. Maybe it just becomes Guy Plans.
The guy plans. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because like
Interesting. Yeah.
in a lot of the settings, I am not unhappy to take Guy Plans. There's very few environments that I'm like actively not wanting to take Guy Plans, and it's scenarios with weird healing debuffs like on Raden or on
Yeah.
what was that, the first boss of Crucible of not Crucible, the raid.
I know what you're talking.
Yeah,
The
things that
debuff
interact
dude. Yeah.
badly with like healing increases or the you don't want to heal off a certain debuff. Those are so rare,
Yeah. Yeah.
so rare. And you're gonna be like it isn't going to gate pretty much anything off with the current tree structure, because you're going to want to go through the left side of the tree a little bit in order to unlock all the purifying brew stuff. Um,
Huh.
and so you don't need to go for Gaiplins. You can path around it and still get to all the capstone stuff. So it could become a not choice node and be fine.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Oh yeah. I mean, I guess for you guys then, like, yeah, the expel harm change isn't huge. I did have one question outside of that, which was the change that they made to vivacious vivification.
That's
So
the
this was
instant one, right?
the instant
Yeah.
one. They changed it from always being instant to now being every 10 seconds your
Yeah.
Vivify cast is instant. Just real quick, has Brewmaster like channels talked about this for the
Yeah.
past like a lot? Like has it been the main topic of conversation for the
I
past
think the
6
strength
days?
of spirit question has been the more common thing,
Okay.
but it has come up a lot. And I mean, I think the change is good. I think for Brewmaster and for Windwalker, this is good. It's not a better, like it obviously makes the talent worse, right? But
Yeah.
it doesn't. Um, Having it always be instant cast all the time was obviously like super good. Like
Yeah.
drowning out other sustain options, good. Um, I could see it being really awkward for Mistweavers, where it's like sometimes instant and sometimes not.
It's worse. Yeah, it's definitely worse in this case. But I mean, it's funny. We have now we no longer have Summers like our soothing mist folks or our mistweaving folks versus fist weaving folks. We have the instant cast vivify people who are dying on this hill that Monk is now inherently worse. Like Mistweaver's worse because of it. And to me, like the biggest thing with me is that it didn't functionally change. Like it changed how the spell worked, but in the context of like when you wanted to use an instant cast Vivify, like
Consume
it would be
somebody.
well, no, you could just cast Vivify, right? So like the idea is like it's still
Yeah,
it was a 1.5 second cast, so it still was the GCD basically. You
yeah.
still are limited by that. The only difference now is you can move and cast it, but like the times where you needed to move and cast a Vivify were probably very low.
Yeah.
Like it's a nice to have running from pack to pack.
Yeah.
You could roll, you could like port in and out if you needed to do it. There's always a chance to cast and move. So it's like people are like, "Oh, we're melee healers. It sucks to cast a melee." I'm like, no one would care about this if this was never a thing, right?
Yeah.
And as a instacast thing, particularly for Mistweavers in PvP, way too strong.
Yeah.
Like it's basically like your main heal not interruptible, like
Yeah.
way too strong. And then even in
And
PvE,
that's
it just
the
meant that
same thing for Brewmaster and Windwalker and PvP. Like we
yeah,
can go off on a tangent about how the priest blue post was like really awkward and kind of sucked to read because everything was like, yeah, this is too good in PvP, so you can't have it in PvP. That
yeah,
was like
yeah,
the TLDR of the priest one. This one is legitimately like it's not very good in PvE. Like it's good. It's good, don't get me wrong, but it's not like unique
you're not gonna
utility
miss it.
or anything. Like you can still cast Vivify on yourself. You can put 1 point in this talent. It's still
Yeah,
as a brewmaster, as infrequently as you'll need this, you'll probably just have one up. You'll
right.
instant Vivify yourself in combat. It's fine. Um, this one is I'm fine with this one dying on the altar.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for I mean, for Mistweaver too, like the problem now Mistweaver has with this is that it's the easiest way to get into like the chi burst nodes in the lower left hand corner of the class tree. So we're almost forced to take it to have enough points to then get what we want lower on in the tree. And because of that, it then becomes extremely awkward to use. Where like
Yeah.
number one, it's not every 10 like the way that it works. I don't know if you've tested this, but it's a global timer. So it's like when you log in, the timer
Oh,
starts, and then every 10 seconds, it gives you a free Vivify. And if you don't use it, it just overwrites it. So technically, you can get back to back. Like if you use it at second 9 of that
yeah.
timer, that one's
Yeah.
free, and the next second refreshes, and you'll get it again. So it's extremely annoying to now like track. Now we'll have to track it because like if you're used to not moving and casting, you'd want to know, or you'd want to know if like you're about to like if you're waiting for something to cast and it just goes off. Well, then like can you stand in the swirly for half a second longer, hitting a damage ability, then healing, then moving, or do you have to like astral
Yeah.
heal and then move? And it just becomes like a weird thing you have to track. And generally, will break to me at least, I think it breaks the flow of like if you're used to having this be a cast time and now randomly it's not, it
Yeah.
just it hurt like it'll just feel weird basically.
It's
Like
a talent that's like a quality of life thing for Mistweavers and Brewmasters that's over in the way on the Mistweaver side of the tree.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it sucks that you're basically having to take it, but at the same time, it's like ooh, it's just generally, I don't know. It's annoying, and I'm actually more annoyed from the fact that I spent so much time arguing with people that like this is literally it's a non-issue for Mistweavers. This is 100% was created, built with Windwalkers and Brewmasters in mind,
Yeah.
and Mistweavers just get to benefit from it. And to be fair, all the time instant cast is too much of a benefit. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they did. That was the one big thing in Mistweaver chat since this. Like, no one has really been talking about the way the class tree has changed, or sorry, the spec tree has changed. Everyone's all on this like instant cast Viv train. I'm like, this is just stupid. Like,
Yeah.
just it's so minor. Never even made it to live. Like, you never got to play, or like most people never got to play with this. And it's like, it's number
Yeah.
one, I can tell you, it felt really nice, but also number two, way too powerful. Like
Yeah.
in general, like the power was just it made sense that it could be a charge based system. Like it doesn't change much, and having it was yeah, I think too good. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it's been the one change that has like spawned the most conversation. So,
Yeah.
um, well, cool. Anything else in terms of the changes to the trees this week? There was a couple other things that shifted, but I think the expel harm was a big
Yeah.
one. The Instacast Viv one was a big one.
Not a
And
lot
then
for
the
the
Mistweaver
Brewmaster
stuff.
side. Like making it
Yeah,
easier to access fortifying brew is nice. But it's not that
yeah,
much easier because you still have to dump a bunch of points before the first gate. Uh, so you don't have a you don't really benefit that much from it being, now you have to pass through disable. Was a Currently brewmasters don't even have that.
nice.
So, and you can still go through paralysis if you would like, which actually might be what you do because you are like paralysis of between disable and paralysis. Paralysis is better, like
Yeah,
very much better. Way more uses, way better in its niche. It's just better. Um, but you know, technically, you can save a point by going through disable and not picking up paralysis at all. So
Fair enough.
maybe that eventually becomes relevant somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for Mistweaver, it doesn't. I mean, we're probably gonna end up skipping it anyway. Um, there's just too many. It's too many points to pick up a cooldown that like we already get dampen and diffuse, and we're healers, so like we generally know, or we're a little bit more comfortable with managing our own health,
Yeah,
right? So it's like it's yeah. Defensively, I don't think we need three defensives. So
yeah. I mean,
um,
a lot of DPS and healers struggle to use one defensive. About three.
it's true. That is true. If you look at my raid logs, true. So cool. So I guess the only other final thing, we actually did have a question today. If we want to jump to that,
Yep.
um, and so yeah, so I think we haven't done Q&A too often, but if you guys do have questions, you can always yell at us in sort of Twitch chat as we're streaming, do it live, or you can message us and we will answer them. But we did get a question from a Venetia Silver.
Venetia.
Venetia Silver. Okay, whatever. So Venetia Silver, they have asked um question basically. If you were handed the title Director of WoW, which basically I guess means like
We're
you're
in
now running the
charge.
ship. Yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, it's not a team-based thing. We tell people what to do. The question is, would you reboot WoW where Wrath of the Lich King is the launch point, or fix retail WoW even with the issues of quote unquote what sword? Which I don't. I guess the what sword is sort of a moniker for like the fact that they sort of leave things behind. I don't know. I don't know what the difference between those is, but you said you had a pretty lengthy discussion about this in guild chat. So I guess what is your take on the question?
Um. So I think you have to break it down into kind of two things, and one is raid and like general PVE combat. I can't talk about, so I don't know about.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like raid and like PVE combat, and categorically Shadowlands is better than Wrath. It just is. If you believe otherwise, you are not playing the same game. You just like I've looked at the logs of people that are raiding in TBC. I've looked at the stuff from Wrath pre-patch. I've spent more time in Wrath pre-patch logs than pretty much anybody that is not like an active speedrunner, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's not better. What is better is the outside of raid stuff. The the kind of like world, the leveling, the cohesion of everything there, and Wrath. I would not say is necessarily in my book the high point for that. I think he is actually, um, but Wrath is a very good point. And then after Wrath, it starts like to become very meandering, and they do a bunch of things. So the specific conversation we had was like what went wrong in the like around the kata survey that went out, right, about classic kata,
Yeah.
like kind of what went wrong with leveling and the zones in the world in the transition to cataclysm and beyond. And one of the things that they did, and you can still see this a lot in modern zone, not as bad as some of the kata zones, a lot, is when you're out, you're leveling, you're playing that game. There's a few different pieces that actually make it an engaging game. The gameplay loop is about navigation, actually, primarily. It's about navigation. You've got a list of quests that you want to do, and you have to figure out how to go from point A to B to C to D and then back to town. And you want to do that reasonably efficiently, and you don't want to take the long way around. And or maybe you do. Maybe you just want to stop and smell the roses, and like that's fine.
Yeah.
But you have places you want to go, and you have to figure out how to get there. And then in the way are all these monsters that you have to fight. And so you have this loop where it's not just like the drudgery of actually pressing W to the point that you want to reach. You have to think about how to get there. You run into a roadblock and you're not sure how to proceed, and you pull out your map and you like try and path around it. And um, in Cataclysm, that really changed. In Cataclysm, it became much more of the zones were designed with the quest in mind instead of the zones being designed and then the quest like layered on top of them. So
Yeah.
like pre-Cata, you might have a quest, and the place you got the quest would be very inconvenient for where the quest actually is. Wrath, not as much, but like in TBC and Vanilla, absolutely.
Oh
But
yeah.
then in Cata, thinking about Hillsbrad Foothills. Hillsbrad Foothills is one of the best like Cata leveling zones in terms of like how much fun it is to go back and do on a second and third try. And even in there, you can see this where there's just like you go to a quest hub and you pick up like 4 quests and they're all in the exact same spot. It's extremely easy to reach that spot. You just W key over there, press 1 on a bunch of mobs and they die, and then you go back to the quest hub. There's the whole navigation element is completely removed. Even in a lot of cases, that's Cataclysm is the start of where the combat element started getting de-emphasized as well. There was no more like this is where they removed a lot of the need to stop and drink, which
Yeah.
has a sneaky like the engagement from that part of the game is as much about the player figuring out how to eliminate friction. So if there's no friction there, if there's no need to stop and drink, then there's no engagement of like figuring out things you can do to make it so you only have to stop and drink every 5 mobs, every 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, oh, sorry.
so there's like Cataclysm is where they really started like, and Wrath has this to some degree, but Cataclysm is where they really went ham on like remove all the friction and missed this thing where if there's no friction, there's no gameplay, basically.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I would agree in that like leveling nowadays is much more a roller coaster, like not even roller coaster. It's more of like just a carnival ride. It's like
yeah,
it's a small world from Disney. If you've ever been there, you
yeah,
just sit on a boat for 20 minutes, look at the pretty pictures, listen to some music, and then you get on the end and you're done.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think to me, if I was the director of WoW, so like getting back a little bit to the question, because I think what you're saying is that like and maybe I'm misinterpreting, but the idea of like you would reintroduce that sort of friction into at least the
yeah,
leveling portion of the game,
yeah,
elongate that slightly. And then, I mean, to be fair, today I think rating is as good or better than it's ever been.
yeah,
Like, I think continually the raid and even the dungeon team will say, we'll put it all together. Like the end
yeah.
game
End
PvE
game
that you
PVE
do,
stuff is like really good.
it's all yeah, like I think they continue like Mythic Plus, while it has its faults, I think it's still a markedly better system than challenge modes were. And to be fair, it's better than just having heroic dungeons as your only max level content, right? If you want to do 5 mans.
Yeah,
And then the raids themselves continually just to get more intricate, more interesting. I mean, I think beyond the difficulty curve issues with Sanctum, like this tier, like Denathrius is a top 3 end boss. Like I will argue anyone to say that Denathrius is probably one of the best end
yeah,
bosses in the game.
yeah.
Um, you know what I mean? And even the back half of Sepulcher, while not great, like Anduin, I still think is very interesting. Could be its own end boss.
Should have
The
been its own
jailer,
end boss.
yeah, the jailer has line of sight, which in my personal opinion knocks it down. I just hate line of sight mechanics, but still, it's an epic boss fight, right? To go through. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you in that. I think they need to do more around the non-end game stuff, people, and whether that's in your case leveling. In me, it would be just more. I think exploration. I think I'm on the same page with you. Is that
yeah,
it's I don't like and it's probably a mentality shift too. It's a little bit of everything because I don't know if you can go back to Wrath era WoW in the mainstream, right? Like I don't know if
I think the
today's player
popularity
base.
of Classic says otherwise. I think the
Yeah,
popularity
no,
of Classic says you
that's true.
can.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm wondering. So, but I'm wondering if the pop like if you take retail WoW and revert it into like a more into basically a slower game pre end game,
yeah.
does it still like is it still worth the grind to get to end game?
Yeah.
Because today
And
like
so
in
I
Wrath,
should clarify
sorry,
because when I'm
yeah,
talking about the friction, I'm not necessarily talking about the time to level. Because like leveling could be as fast as it is now in terms of total amount of time spent. But what
right,
matters is the friction, the challenges that you have to overcome in the process of doing that. Because without that, it's boring. And I think
yeah,
like if you level in raid gear now, you don't have effectively any challenge. This is why people use stuff like Azeroth autopilot because there isn't really a gameplay for
Yeah, you just
leveling. All the
yeah.
gameplay is having a challenge or some friction and figuring out how you as a player can overcome that. You go up to a boss and you figure out how to beat it. You need to do more damage. The friction is that the rotation is hard,
Right, yeah.
and you practice and you learn how to overcome it. And so then in classic, having effectively it being a skill that the player develops in terms of like navigation, learning, you could learn how the zones are generally designed and then take that knowledge from Paralis over to Blasted Lands and use that to go, oh, okay, I want to reach this spot, but I'm looking at that hill and that looks like something that I can't climb because I ran into a similar thing over on the other continent, and then just
Right.
skip a step in your navigation challenge and go around it. And all of that can exist without it having to be longer.
Right. No, but and I agree, but I think you are like it would have to end it would end up being longer anyway because you have to
Yeah,
have those thought points, right? So
right.
even if it like it would just mean that like
It would
instead
be
of
something
killing
where
20
like,
mobs, you kill 5 mobs and
yeah,
like the time, like the actual quest execution time is lower,
it
but you
would be
still have the same
something.
like yeah.
If you were used to doing Azeroth autopilot, it would take longer because you
Yeah.
really like Azeroth autopilot could still exist. It would still exist because it's super popular.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be um, as brain dead.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even without Azure Autopilot, like the quest structure is the same. It's like you do quests in one hub, turn them in, you get a quest to go to the next hub. Or
Like,
you get a quest out of that
yeah.
one hub that sends you to the next area anywhere where you pick up those quests and you
And
eventually
oh, this is another
automatically
one.
loop
This
back.
grinds my gears. You know all of those quests in like, okay, so you go to uh Eastern Plaguelands post
Yep.
Cataclysm. You do the quest in Lighthouse Chapel. You unlock the quest from the goblin there, and she puts you on a rocket to the Badlands.
Yeah.
The whole piece of like that was an adventure figuring out how to get there.
Yeah.
Like, was an adventure.
Well,
People still talk about stuff like, getting to Stormwind as a night elf, and there's some pieces of that that do not age well, where like you literally run out of things to do that are level appropriate, and you are forced into going on this odyssey to find Stormwind.
yeah. Or you do there's the quest in Stormwind that sends you to each capital city for no other reason other than just to
Yeah,
have you travel there,
yeah,
and there's no reason to follow that quest ever.
yeah,
um, from classic, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
no, I get. I think yeah. So I think we're on. I think I'm on the same page with you in
yeah,
terms of like, to me, it's the gameplay aspect of it. It's also just like having things that don't matter be in the world. Because like today, everything in the world serves a purpose. And I think back in Wrath, and to be fair, I think this you're right, this changed. I mean, even in MLP, which I consider probably my favorite expansion and one of the best ones,
yeah,
most of the stuff that you did that was outside the beaten path were like trinkets you would click on to like get a little bit of lore, but they also gave experience. So they were like you eventually people figured that out, and the best way to level in MLP was to run around and click all those things and
yeah,
not actually do the quest.
yeah,
But I think to me, like I would agree that like there needs to be some sort of danger for you as you walk through these zones, and in an effort to like essentially stream like leave leveling somewhat in place for like the RPG purists, right? But then also try and push people to the end game and to that treadmill of like
yeah,
Mythic Plus and rating as
yeah,
fast as possible. Like they've sacrificed stuff in the middle,
yeah,
which is why people just spend all day running around, Warboss,
yeah.
like right,
Doing
or
laps
running
around
around your
Warbows.
water hall. Yeah, is that like there's no reason to be out in the world, which I
Yeah,
think is something that at least if I was director, it would be more just spending time to create that like the weird stuff, like
and
the stuff
and
on the top of the hills and the barrens that was like tributes to some like burial ground or whatever, right? That
and
nobody knew about. So
it's funny like there's way more stuff out in the world that rewards you in various ways now. Like World Quest didn't exist in Classic. There were
yeah,
no like quests, daily quests out in the world that you needed to go and do. But I mean, there was gathering. That was why you went out in the world. There was gathering. There was getting to the raid, like having to walk
yeah,
there to a
yeah,
warlock or one of the people helping the warlocks. Uh, and world PvP. Like, there's not a lot of reasons to go out there once you're max level in
right.
Classic. Especially in the modern era of classic WoW, where you like reagents are cheap and you just buy them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't I yeah, I mean, yeah. I think we're on the same page though, in terms
Yeah,
of like if
yeah,
I could be the director of WoW, it would be to go back and like yeah, put that sort of like deliberate slowness. Well, I call it slowness, but I think you're more eloquent the way that you described it. Is like basically like more deliberate in terms of like friction around sort of the leveling process, and then just put stuff in like make just things interesting but not there for a purpose. Because like if you have to go out in the world for a purpose and there are things that get in your way, they become annoyances, right? And I think it'd be cooler if it was just like go out in the world if you want or not, and if you do, like here's some
yeah,
cool stuff you can find, right?
yeah,
Um, like I still remember going through the Barrens at level 20 on my Warlock in Classic to get some Succubus quests, which was absolutely awful. It took me 2 days to do it, but it was also like the craziest thing of trying to figure out how to get from Ironforge
yeah,
to the Barrens,
yeah.
and like
Exactly.
figuring out the tram to Stormwind and then Stormwind to Dustswallow, or not Dustswallow, but
Doing
the wetlands,
the
the death run through the wetlands.
aquatic
Was-
form quests as a night
Oh
elf
yeah,
druid. Yeah, same deal.
yeah, like having to swim off into like the fatigue zones, right? Like off
Yeah,
the coast. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean it's that type of stuff was fun. I think nowadays maybe it's less fun because we have Wowhead and we will
yeah,
just read about how to do it.
yeah.
And maybe that's the ultimate issue. But
I
I
mean,
mean Wrath is still cool.
I don't think quest helpers and things like that necessarily like are incompatible with the things that made
Yeah.
being like out in the world doing questing stuff in vanilla and TVC engaging. It does remove one thing of like trying to understand what the hell the quest is trying where the quest is trying to send you. I don't
Exactly.
think that that was a particularly good
Well
like or an
you just
engaging piece of it. Like
you just deciphered Thoughtbot comments, right? Like
yeah.
you basically it was like a commiseration between a bunch of people trying to figure it out.
I don't think that that was necessarily like a very engaging and fun piece of the leveling process. But you can
Yeah.
still have like the quest helper points you up at the top of this hill and then have to figure out how to get to the top of this hill. Whereas like modern zone design, modern quest design, there's a
Like a path.
staircase
Yeah.
to the top of the hill. You just
Yeah.
press W.
With like a bunch of arrows and a lighted sign that says like
Yeah.
quest objective this way.
Yeah.
And then of
So
course there's like the once you do it once on your alt, there's a button you just click and it like flies you up there, like the automated little like
yeah,
handicap chair that just like takes you up the
you get on
stairs
an
for you.
escalator.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
no, yeah, I mean I agree. I think I don't know if I'd go back to Wrath because I think going back there and changing the trajectory of the game is not the way you do it. I think you have to start with what it is today. But I think to your point, introducing that sort of like friction or yeah, just more like thought in terms of like getting to max level. It
Yeah.
makes to your point, yeah, it makes the journey just I think better. And then once you hit max level, then you're like, now the world opens up, which is today. It's like you're like tapping your foot, like, okay, quest hub number one done, going to quest hub number two. Like, I can't tell you what happens in not that I would tell you in Wrath what happens in the zones, but it's like I have zero memorable things from leveling in Shadowlands,
Yeah.
BFA or ever. And
Yeah.
and like all my memories are typically around bugs that happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Shadowlands, I picked up a toy and tried to use it
And got
and like
changes
to
seed.
learn it and just got insta disconnected and couldn't reconnect because the toy wasn't implemented right. So I lost 45 minutes leveling or an hour leveling,
Yeah.
something like that. So
Yeah. Or like
yeah.
going to Maldraxxus for the first time with like the entire rest of the world reaching it at the same time and the arena just being a
Blacked out.
complete mess.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is like, I get it, it's popular, it's cool to see those set pieces, but like even doing that in like Wrath, like, they split the two zones, you could pick one of the two boats, or even like going through the portal in BC, right?
Yeah.
Um actually BC I went to Zanger Marsh and actually
Yeah.
leveled there first. And
Smart.
then went back. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, it's yeah, I think they need to make to your point, make it a little bit more deliberate getting to max level. And I think max level's fine. Like I think the current structure works, other than they need to put Valor upgrades back in raid gear. Oh
But
man, we are over again. Oh my gosh, I
yeah.
just checked the time. Jesus.
Yeah,
Um,
we are. It was a good question though. Uh
yeah, Venitia Silver. Thank you for the question.
I love talking about that stuff if you can't tell. That is like so before rating, that was like my content leveling.
Yeah.
And then I killed it. So I feel strongly about that. Anyway, that is going to be it for the show today. Lots of good stuff. I don't know what we're talking about next week. We're going to see what happens on the
No
beta.
clue. Yeah. Well, we
Um,
talk about pre-patch Wrath, right? We're now a Wrath show.
uh, I still have not logged into, like I said earlier, have not logged into Wrath.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe this week you can check it out.
uh, yeah. That is going to be it for the show today. Thank you all for watching and or listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, you can support this show and all of the other work that we do over at the Peak of Serenity over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, if you enjoyed Monk's stuff, come join the Discord. Open to everyone, not patrons. Lots and lots of good conversation there. If you want to talk about the Mistweaver or Brewmaster or Windwalker talent trees, all three specs have dedicated channels talking about Dragonflight stuff. And good. You too can ask whether we're going to have 400% healing from Strength of Spirit or not.
Or if Instacast Vivify is killing Mistweaver. I love that
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Continue to ask that one.
But that is it for the show today. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.